So many warriors and soldiers, huh? I have a lot of speech, but I need to move on, and it's a time to welcome our chief guest. We have been waiting for. In 2010, Nikki Haley was elected the 116th governor of South Carolina. During Governor Nikki's tenure, South Carolina was the national leader in economic development, known as the Beast of the Southeast. In 2013, her husband Michael, a combat veteran, deployed to Afghanistan, making her the first governor in US history to have their spouse deployed. The people of South Carolina decisively re-elected her in 2014. 2 years later, Time magazine named her 100 most influential people in the world. In 2016, President Donald Trump nominated her as the US ambassador to the United Nations. In that role, she served as a member of the President's cabinet and the National Security Council. As ambassador, she ensured the American people saw value of their investment, defended US interests, kept our country safe, and championed human rights for her work in UN. Forbes named her as the world's 100 most powerful women. After serving in the Trump's administration, she founded Stand for America and Stand for America PAC. She continues to fight for policies and candidates that ensure America's freedom at home and strength abroad. I request AV team to play the video.
Nikki Haley made history, taking the oath of office to become the first woman to serve as governor of South Carolina.
I think my differences have always had people underestimate me, and I think that's the fun I have, is in going and proving them wrong. When a challenge comes in, I'm so overprotective of the state that I just work. That's all I know to do is work, and I don't stop until I feel like things are taken care of. If you can give a person a job, you take care of a family, and we watched a lot of families get taken care of over the past couple of years.
President-elect Trump has asked South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley to be his ambassador to the United Nations, and she's accepted. The daughter of Indian immigrants is considered a rising star in the Republican Party. Haley would be the first woman appointed to Trump's cabinet.
For anyone that says you can't get anything done at the UN, they need to know there's a new sheriff in town.
There is a new U.S. UN.
You are going to see a change in the way we do business. For those that don't have our back, we're taking names.
If, for any reason, North Korea attacks the United States or our allies, the U.S. will respond, period.
She's so tough, and she's so consistent. And you just know you're not going to move her.
America will put our embassy in Jerusalem. That is what the American people want us to do. And it is the right thing to do. No vote in the United Nations will make any difference on that.
What we witnessed here today in the Security Council is an insult. It won't be forgotten.
I like the message that Nikki sent yesterday at the United Nations.
This was the finest hour for Nikki Haley, I think. Standing up for the United States, standing up for Israel.
Standing her ground, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley making it clear.
I will not shut up. Rather, I will respectfully speak some hard truths.
Nikki Haley delivered absolute fire and brimstone. She dropped it right on the head of the Russian ambassador.
Ambassador Nikki Haley, who is really going after the Russians. She gives the evil eye.
So Haley shows us what American foreign policy looks like with the spy.
I wear heels. It's not for a fashion statement. It's because if I see something wrong, we're going to kick them every single time. We have to put forth real solutions to our country's problems, and we have to restore the people's belief that America is worth fighting for. America is the greatest force for good
in human history, and we should never be ashamed to say that.
The biggest reason socialism is gaining ground is because capitalism's defenders are too afraid to speak up. We can't keep quiet. The truth matters, and it's time to tell it. America is too nice. Too nice. Stop being nice to these thugs and these tyrants that want to kill us. We're not going to throw cotton balls at them. We're going to throw a grenade.
Here's what I just learned. Don't make Nikki Haley mad.
And if this president signs any sort of deal, I'll make you a promise. The next president will shred it on her first day in office. Just saying, sometimes it takes a woman.
Now I request Rajita Arabolu and Kirti Reddy Musali onto the stage. It is the time to welcome our chief guest tonight, Ambassador Nikki Haley, onto the stage. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with all of you tonight. You know, there's so many people to thank for this event. Dave, Jagadish, Gopi, Vinod, Sudhakar, and of course, Dr. Prasad Thadakura, who's been just a dear friend of mine for a very, very long time. You know, when I came from the airport and we were talking about coming here, Prasad told me, he said, did you know there are 30,000 Indian-owned IT companies in America? And the first thought that I had was, I can't wait to tell my mom and dad. Because to see how far the Indian community has come is an amazing source of pride. And I think back to when I was growing up. My parents came here. They had the same story that so many of you had. They came with $8 in their pocket because they wanted a better life for their kids. And I remember we came to this small southern town. I was born there. And we were the only Indian family in that small southern town. My father wore a turban, still does to this day. My mother wore a sari. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. And I remember when I would get teased on the playground and I would come home, my mom would say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. And it's amazing. And it's amazing how that lesson on the playground played out throughout my life. Whether it was in the corporate world, whether it was as governor, whether it was as ambassador, because when you're faced with a challenge, if you first talk about the things you have in common, everybody lets their guard down, and then you can focus on the solution. And I look at so many Indian families who went through that challenge. But the beautiful part is that same town that didn't know who we were or what we were came to accept us. That same state elected me the first female minority governor in the country. And what you see now is we live in a country that really values talent, that really values people who give back. And there was never a day that my brothers, my sister, and I weren't reminded by my parents how blessed we were to live in America. And they would always say the best way to appreciate your blessings is to give back. and I look at the Indian community, and the first generation that came here, they worked quiet, they worked hard, they tried to do right by their families because they wanted their kids to have a better life than they did. And now I look and I go across the country. I did it as governor, I did it as ambassador, and I still do it to this day. And I tell everybody in America, did you know, of all the minorities in the country, the Indian community is the highest educated of any minority in the country? I remind them, did you know that of all the minorities in the country, the Indian community is the least dependent on government assistance? I also remind everyone, did you know the Indian community has the highest per capita income of any minority in the country? But my absolute favorite, and you've all made this happen, the Indian community is the most charitable and philanthropic of any minority in the country. So if you look at the Indian community, now you look, America knows the talent that the Indian community brings. America knows the blessings that the Indian community brings. America knows the philanthropic side of the Indian community. Now is the time for America to hear the Indian community's voice. And so for my generation that was born in America, I believe, and my husband and I take care of my parents. They live with us. They're now 87 and 89. But I believe they sacrifice so much for us. Our job is to do twice as much to prove that they made the right decision. So now it's time for the Indian community to step up. And that means now it's time to get involved politically. It's time to make sure that you're voting. It's time to make sure that you're investing. It's time to make sure that the country understands that the beauty of the Indian community is that they're business people, they're physicians, they're engineers. You know, I grew up, I was just like so many where, you know, we were always told you had to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. Somehow politician didn't weigh into that, but they still forgave me for that. But, you know, I think there's so much, and what I want you to know is you have made me proud of everything you've done in this country. So now I want you to say it. I want you to live it. I want you to remind people how much the Indian community does. And now I want you to get more involved. Whether that means running for office, I want you to do it. Whether that means getting involved in a campaign, I want you to do it. Whether that means making sure your organization like this one fights for the things that you need to be more successful, I want you to do it because you've earned it. You've earned the right to have the voice in America. So I'm convinced we have a lot more to give back to this country that we all love so much. I know how patriotic all of you are. I see it every day, and I know how much you love this country, and I want our kids and our grandkids to know how much we love this country. But I am so grateful to be here with you. I know we're going to have a fun conversation, but God bless you. Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, all of those things. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki.
We now invite on stage Mr. Sudhakar Pennam, CEO of Kairos Technologies, and he's one of the founding members of IT Serve. He has been with IT Serve from the pre-formation days. He was also president in the year 2015.
He was instrumental for the growth for adding 175 members and laid the foundation for chapters outside of Texas. He is currently in the governing board and an active member. He is?
That is correct. Sudhakar Pendam.
That's right.
Good evening, Ambassador Haley. Do you know the coincidence of year 2010? That's when you won the first governor of South Carolina, and that's when IT Serve got formed. We formed in year 2010 in a closed coffee shop of few founder members of 15, 20 people, and for the past 12 years, we grew multifold, and the same way you grew in your politics, multifold. Let me get directly to the Q&A. What led up to your being Trump's pick for United Nations? How was this journey like?
So I was governor of South Carolina, loved the job. I had just been reelected, and I got a phone call from Reince Priebus, who became his chief of staff, and he said, the president would like to speak with you. And I said, okay, what does he want to talk about? And he said, he wants to talk to you about Secretary of State. And I said, well, I can't be Secretary of State. I'm just a governor. And he said, well, he wants to talk to you. You need to come to New York and meet with him. So I met with him. And when I saw him, I said, look, you don't need a governor to be Secretary of State. You need someone that's more experienced, but I will help you. I'll do whatever I can to be supportive. So then Reince called back and he said, don't say anything, just listen. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. And I said, Reince, I don't even know what the United Nations does. I just know everybody hates it. And he said, well, the president's going to call you. I need you to be ready. So the president called that Monday, and he said, okay, Nick, are you going to do this? And I said, well, sir, if I do this, there'd have to be some changes. And he said, what? And I said, well, I don't want to work for anyone else. I would want to work directly with you, so it needs to be a cabinet position. He said, done. I said, well, I'm a policy girl, so I'd want to be in the room when decisions are made, so I need to be on the National Security Council. He said, done. And I said, well, I'm not going to be a wallflower or a talking head. I need to be able to say what I think. And he said, that's exactly why I want you to do this. And he was true to his word from the first day to the last day.
Amazing. Ambassador Haley, why is it important that we have more female voices? Not necessarily just in politics, but represented more in the U.S. and in the leadership position generally.
We need to see more women lead, because when women lead, great things happen. I mean, women are very good at everything they do. Women balance well. In many cases, they handle the finances, they handle the family, they worry about security. And what I always tell women is we don't need favors, we don't need quotas. If you work hard and prove that you deserve to be in the room, good things happen. And that's what we need. So what I would say to everybody in this room is make sure that you have opportunities for women in your businesses, and then let them shine, because they will work harder, they will work smarter, and they will work better than anybody else you have working for you, because women tend to do things, when they do something, they do it extremely well.
There is still an inequality in terms of women's representation across sectors and industries. What can we do to begin to move the needle toward equality? What will it take?
The biggest thing is create opportunities, is make sure you're noticing. If you see talent, give those people an opportunity to prove to you what they can do. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for women. I don't want them to think they have to give special treatment to women. That's not it. Women are good. But when there's an opportunity, if you give that woman the opportunity, she's going to prove herself. She's going to show that she's meant for the job. She's going to work really hard. And what we know is it's also about raising strong girls. Strong girls become strong women. Strong women become strong leaders. And that's the key, is just to make sure that you provide opportunities so women can lead.
Thank you. Can you tell us who are the people who have inspired you, being your role models?
So my first role model, obviously, was my mom. My mom she lived in India. She was a lawyer, and she was actually one of the first female judges. but because of the time, she was never able to sit on the bench. But she always taught us that whatever you do, be great at it and make sure people remember you for it. And I saw how hard my mom came to this country, how hard she worked, how much she taught her kids. Everything that she and my dad went through, she never showed weakness. She was always strong. She was always moving forward. She was always motivated. And she was so proud the day that I became governor. She was just, because it proved to her that everything they had worked so hard for was worth it.
Awesome. How can Indo-Americans contribute to nation building? How do you see the impact being made in the U.S. polity and business by them?
You know, the Indian community, we're good at everything. We're good at medicine. We're good at technology. We're good at engineering. We're good at teaching. We're good at business. And so what I want the Indian community to know is you've already proven that we're good. Don't be shy about bragging about it, because you have done so much. And now that you've achieved that, think about where do you go from here. Now show your leadership ability, whether it's in chambers of commerce, whether it's running for office, whether it's being leaders within the community. I want to see the Indian American community step up even more, because I know that you can. And I know that when your voices are heard, you're actually laying the groundwork for your children and your grandchildren to understand that there's a place for them. You know, I remember growing up and I never saw anyone that looked like me. And I always wanted to see someone that looked like me. Just remember, all the kids are looking at you. And when they see what you've accomplished, it lets them know there's nothing they can't accomplish in this country. But we have to be the reasons. We have to be the symbols. We have to show what's capable. And through that, our goal is to make the entire country proud. And if you're good at what you do, everybody will notice.
In your view, has the connotation and perception of the word immigrant changed over the years? What has been the change?
I think the main thing with immigrants, it's amazing because legal immigration is the fabric of America. It's what makes us great, is different cultures, different talents, different people from different places. Only America can do that. What is really important, though, is so many people, like my parents, who came here legally, who put in the time, who put in the price, they are offended by those who are coming here illegally. And they want to make sure that everybody follows the rules like they followed the rules. But what we also know is that there's a lot of, you find most legal immigrants are more patriotic than extremists these days. And people see that. Americans see that. They love that legal immigrants love this country. They love that legal immigrants appreciate our laws. They love that legal immigrants do what's right. And so I think what's important is we have to always push away illegal immigration, because if we all came here legally, if we all did it right, we should never be okay with others that don't want to follow the same laws to get here.
Thank you.
I do want to say what we do need to do, though, is the immigration process needs to be fixed. There are many people waiting to come to this country that are needed in this country. And because of the bureaucracy and the slowness of it, they're not coming in. We need to start doing immigration based on merit. We need to start doing immigration based on values. We need to start doing immigration based on what they can contribute to this country.
Thank you, ma'am. Getting all the whole, in the whole hall, over 90% people are immigrants coming from India.
Yeah, and we're a better country because of it.
What do you think about what's happening between Russia and Ukraine?
The issue with Russia and Ukraine is we would not have a war with Russia and Ukraine if we wouldn't have had the debacle in Afghanistan. My husband is a combat veteran. He deployed to Afghanistan. The idea that America left Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our friends who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that told our friends in the world. More importantly, think about what that told our enemies. Then you go and you look at the fact that, we're falling all over ourselves to get back into an Iran deal where we're not even allowed in the negotiating room. And our key negotiator is Russia. So we're trying to get one enemy to negotiate with another enemy for us. So we've got to start looking at the fact that with this situation with Russia and Ukraine, this is bigger than Ukraine. This is a war about freedom. And it's a war we have to win. Because if Russia is able to beat Ukraine, they'll go into Poland and the Baltics next. They're NATO countries. That means it's a world war. We don't want that. So the key is to make sure that we give Ukraine everything they need to win. And they're making great inroads. If you look at Russia now, it shows how far they've fallen because they're getting drones from Iran. They're getting rockets from North Korea. They've raised the draft age for the Russian military to 65. They've really fallen, and so we just need to keep this going. It doesn't mean we need to give Ukraine a blank check, but it does mean we need to work with NATO to make sure they have the equipment so that they can finish this and win the war, because it will send a huge message to the Ayatollahs in Iran, to North Korea, and to China, most importantly.
What do you think is the United States' biggest threat?
Our biggest threat, hands down, is China. If you look at the situation that China has put us in, China has built up their military. They have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have more air defense systems than we do. They continue to modernize their military. You look at the intellectual property. They continue to steal intellectual property from us. We're not doing anything to hold them accountable. They are the #1 human rights abuser in the world. They've taken 1 million Muslim Uyghurs. They've put them in concentration camps. They're making them change their name, change their religion, forced sexual abuse, forced labor. If this was anybody else, the world would be up in arms, but they're too scared to say anything because it's China. Then you go and you look at, they've invested throughout the world in all these port projects, waiting for a time like this where these smaller countries can't pay it, and they're going to them and saying, you can't pay this, well then give us your military installation, give us your utility, give us your port. Now you look at that map and it'll send a chill up your spine. But the one that bothers me the most is President Xi chairs a commission that he personally leads, and he said anyone that does business in China has to cooperate with the Chinese military. So think about our tech companies. Think about our financial data. Think about our health data. Think about your children's lifestyle data, and know that the Chinese military has that. The Chinese regime has said whoever owns the data rules the world. They're trying to collect as much data as possible. We need to make it hard for them. They recently bought hundreds of acres of farmland near Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. We know they're now trying to put cables underneath because that's near where our most sensitive drone equipment is and our most sensitive drone technology. We need to be smarter in the way we deal with China and know that they're trying to bring the West down. We have to be stronger and make sure we can combat that.
Got it, ma'am. What are some of the strategies the United States should be enacting today as they look at relationships with other countries?
I think we need to make sure we value our friends. I think in a time like this where China is such a threat, we need to be looking at India. We need to be looking at Japan. We need to be looking at South Korea. We need to be looking at Australia and saying, instead of China, why aren't we getting it from any of those countries? But also we need to be more strategic. You know, when I was at the United Nations, when we had moved the embassy, or we announced we were moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, the world condemned America. And I at the time said, we can put our embassy wherever we choose. We always put our embassy in the capital of every country. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and that's why it should be there. When the General Assembly voted 68 countries didn't vote against us out of 193, which was actually a win, believe it or not. And I went back to my office and I told my staff, I said, I want you to put a book together. I want you to list all 193 countries. I want the next column to be the percentage of times they voted with the United States and when they didn't vote with the United States. And then I said, I want the last column to be how much foreign aid we gave them. And I took that book and I gave it to President Trump. He lost his mind. He was flipping pages, looking at countries. We were giving $1 billion in military aid to Pakistan. They were turning around and harboring terrorists that were trying to kill our American soldiers. We stopped giving that $1 billion to Pakistan. America needs to understand you can't buy friends. Instead, look at the countries that really believe in the same values, that want a partner, that want to be your friend, and then partner with them. Stop giving money to everybody that doesn't care about us or that says death to America. We don't need to be giving money to those countries.
Thank you, ma'am. You're busy with your book tour. Let's talk about your new book. If you want the new book, if you want something done, ask a woman, is out recently. Tell us more about it. What and who was your inspiration to write this book? And what was the message you want to convey?
So the title of the book, If You Want Something Done, is after the Margaret Thatcher quote, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. That was the basis of the title of the book. And what happened was the publisher had been asking me for a couple of years to write this book. And the reason they said was there's so many books about male leaders, but there's not a lot of books about female leaders. And I was thinking about when I was growing up, I always looked for someone to look up to. And I didn't see any women leaders. And so I would go to my school library when I was in second grade, and the only books that I could check out were books on first ladies, the wives of presidents. And I loved reading how they were partners with their husbands and how much they did behind the scenes and how much they contributed to our country. And so I thought, I have to write this book. So the book, If You Want Something Done, it talks about my life, but it also talks about the lives of 10 ordinary women who became extraordinary. It's people like Margaret Thatcher. It's people like Golda Meir. It's people, who made a real difference in life. And I want it to remind our young girls and our women that when you work hard, if you believe in yourself and you work hard and you have courage in your convictions, you can change the world. And so this really is for every young girl, every woman professional, our children, our grandchildren, our sisters, our mothers, to let them know the world is better because of them, and we need them to step up and we need them to lead.
Yes. We can't agree more when you say strong girls make strong women. Strong women become strong leaders. How can we start supporting our girls at home, in school, and generally everywhere, every day, to let them grow into the strong women?
I think we should let, strong girls means when your girls have strong views, let them have strong views. When they say something, let them have that strong spirit. Don't be quick to quieten them. Don't be quick to tell them to stop. Let them learn who they are. Let them get comfortable in their skin and remind them that they can do and be anything they want to be. America is the best country in the world. If just reminding them whatever they do, be great at it, make sure people remember you for it, and go and prove what you're capable of doing. And the biggest thing is to push through the fear, because girls by nature, when they're faced with a challenge, they tend to step back. They tend to wait for others to say you should do it. But what we want girls and women to remember is when you're faced with a challenge, if you push through the fear, you find out you're so much stronger on the other side. If I didn't push through the fear, I never would have run against a 30-year incumbent in a primary for the state house. If I didn't push through the fear, I never would have become governor. If I didn't push through the fear, I wouldn't have become ambassador. When you push through the fear, you live life. If you don't push through the fear, you never know what could have been.
What will be the biggest takeaway from your new book, especially for the young girls?
I think the main thing is we just want young girls to know that there's a place for them, and that, you know, fathers need to encourage their girls. He needs to support their girls. I hope they'll all go out and buy this book for their girls and let them know that we're proud of them and that they're going to do great things. And I think that's the biggest thing we can do, is support our daughters.
Let's talk about some of your hobbies or your personal life. With so many things, politics, writing a book, and always moving around, what is that one thing that has been helping you to stay in touch with yourself? Or there is such much that concern and upset you, yet you always convey such a calm and centered demeanor?
I'm actually very boring. I am a homebody. I love to be at home. I love to be home with my family. We don't do a lot of things, but I started a couple of years ago. I was trying to think of how to challenge myself more, because I've always tried to push myself to do things that are uncomfortable. And I knew I couldn't run. I had never, you know, most people, if you're either a runner or you're not, and I always told myself I couldn't run, so I decided that I was going to learn how to run. And so I started running, and then last December I ran a half marathon, and now I have developed a love of running, because it's a great way to start the day. It's a great way to kind of get my thoughts clear. It's a great way to kind of say your prayers and do what you need to and get your head straight. And so that's now become my new thing, that I really do love to run.
How long did it take to you practice for the half marathon?
It probably took me, I think I ran a year before I ran the half marathon, and I hope I can run another one this year.
What's the call to action?
The call to action is to know that our country is better because of you. And if you are comfortable right now, you're not doing enough. We need you to step up, whether that's in business, whether that's in politics, whether that's within your community. Step up and do more. Do more and show the rest of the country how great they are for the Indian community and how much better we make the life around them. And really try and do the one thing, I say this, my parents always said, if you're blessed, give back. And that's what we need to do. But my biggest hope and prayer is, I really want the Indian American community to get involved in politics. As much as I would love for all of you to be Republican, I just want you to be involved in something. Even if you're Democrats, I want you to get involved in politics. Make sure you're registered. Make sure you get active in politics. Make sure you support a candidate. Make sure you get involved. Run for office if you need to. It's the next step for the Indian community, is to be able to show that they can be smart politically too. When we do that, it'll be a real force.
Thank you. In one of your interviews, you shared that you sent out notes to women. Who are these women and what notes are these?
I always send out notes to people, even if I don't know them, just to encourage them. So when there was the first female woman of the New York Stock Exchange, I sent her a note. When there was the first female CEO of Citigroup, and she was the first, I sent her a note and just saying that, you've got this, you can do this, we're proud of you, keep going. And I just think it's important to encourage other people, because, anytime you take on a challenge, there's a lot of things going against you, but you need support. And so it's good sometimes just to give a person a note of support. So I always try and do that wherever I can.
What are the activities that keep you engaged outside of work? And what do you do for fun?
I think, again, it's just more, it's family. I love to watch movies. I love to be with my husband. I love to play with my dogs. I love to be with my kids. My daughter's getting married, so we're now planning for a wedding, so we're excited about that. My son is a junior in college, and so I just really enjoy being with family.
Do you watch any Indian movies?
I do love Bollywood movies, but you know, one of the worst things that happened, I remember when we were growing up, my parents would always try and teach us Punjabi, and so they would say, okay, for the entire weekend, we're not going to speak any English, we're just going to speak Punjabi. And it would last like an hour. And we would say, no, I don't want to do it. But now I regret so much not learning it. So like I know a few things like Pani Lena and, you know, just like little words, but I don't know like the language. And I really wish I would have learned it. So I can only watch Bollywood movies if they have the captions.
Do you speak with your mom in Hindi?
I can understand a little bit, but I can't say it.
You know, with respect of time, I'm limiting the questions and open the 3 questions to the audience.
Sure.
I have a couple of female women.
Okay, sure.
Sheila, Anupama, and Lavanya.
Hi.
Good evening, Ambassador Haley. It is truly, we're not even related to you, but I think I can speak confidently for everybody here about how incredibly we are bursting with pride to hear your remarks, your kindness, your sympathy, your understanding as an immigration lawyer for immigrants and their contributions. And you just make us swell and burst with pride. So thank you. Thank you for what you've done for India, for America, for Indian Americans, for every single person here.
So nice, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So my question, you know, as I was thinking just a few days ago, you clearly have the secret recipe, by the way, the sauce for how to win tough elections. You won it twice, and of being at the highest levels of the federal government, National Security Council. But you know, we've just had a few days ago, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the first ever sort of minority Asian, you know, Indian origin, person of Indian origin. Do you think, I think you're ready, because I saw that clip there and I've seen it. I think you're ready, and I think you can do a job. Hell, I think you can do a job better than most. Right? Do you think America is ready for a woman, a person of Indian American background? Oh my God. And oh my God, and most important, actually, I think more than Indian American and a woman, I think the faith, because even President Joe Biden is only the 2nd Catholic president in American history for a person who is Hindu or Sikh to become the next president of the United States, or next, or whenever, in the next few years.
So, you know, I mean, the first thing I'll say is, you know, you said when I see all of you, so when I used to go in front of an Indian group, I would always say, it's so nice to see so many uncles and aunties. But now I realize I'm older, so now I have to say, it's so nice to see like my brothers and sisters, right? So it's like, so first of all, to see Rishi Sunak become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, we should all be so proud. We really should all be so proud. And I hope that he really shows strong leadership and gives us more reasons to be proud. You know, right now I'm helping a lot of other candidates get elected. I don't have to make a bigger decision until January. Before I answer the question, how many of you are going to help me?
I was going to say we would change party lines for you.
So this is what I'll tell you. I don't have to make a decision until January. If it looks like there's a place for me, I've never lost a race. I'm not going to start now. I'll put 1,000% into it and I'll finish it.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm absolutely loving this conversation. We all would like to know what are your future plans in the political field.
Well, I will let you know in January, and the first person that will know is Prasad Thadakura. So you ask him, and he'll let you know, and then we'll take it from there.
Welcome, Ambassador Haley here.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I have a question. What were the special challenges you faced as a woman to rise in the political field, and how did you overcome it?
So there were never any lines to the women's bathroom in any of the jobs I did. You know, there just weren't. So when I was in the corporate world, I was the only female executive at the company that I worked for. And then when I ran for the State House, I defeated the longest serving legislator, and South Carolina was the lowest in the country on women elected officials at the time. And what I would tell everybody is, and then I became the first female minority governor in the country, first female governor in South Carolina. And when I went to the United Nations, the Security Council at the United Nations, I was the only woman. So it's always been that way. It's all I've ever known. But that's never entered my mind. If you go and you know what your job is and you're good at it, people will respect you. It's really important for you to believe in yourself. And so I never worried about how I was different. I always focused on what I was going to do to earn the respect of everybody in the room. And that just meant working hard. I knew I could work harder than everybody else. I knew I would work smarter than everybody else. And I knew that the way I would work was to make everyone proud. And if I did that, then I knew that I would have won. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Haley. I would like to invite Ms. Saddev, our president, onto the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Now, please let's announce on stage Membership Strategy Chair Srikant Dasugari,
Florida Chapter President Divan Bu,
Treasurer Anju Vallabhaneni,
Joint Treasurer Murali Bandlapalli,
and Membership Director Radha Allah. To present a memento.